Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. This has been the third week of Victober, and as you've seen before, I'll be starting each of these weekly ramble videos this month with two special features. The first, I'll be recording in some sort of Victorian outfit or a Victorian adjacent outfit. For the first week, you saw me in my Victorian nightgown, masquerading as a fine blouse, and complemented it with a thrift store tassel necklace. Last week, you saw me in a fantastic top hat and vest, talking about the almost pre-Victorian diarist Anne Lister, frequently called Gentleman Jack. This week, we have the old, quote, gypsy fortune teller from Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. For those of you who've read the book, you'll remember this transformative moment of revelation and desire for the characters who sit together as the fortune teller reveals a vision of the future. What may be different from my house to Thornfield is that there are low-flying helicopters circling my house this morning. I hope this is not just another one of Rochester's silly plans. In addition to wearing timely attire, I'm starting each of these weekly ramble videos by telling you about the tea I'm drinking that day. This idea is copied directly from the excellent Booktube channel, Taking Tea with Catherine, a great Booktube channel which I will link to below. This week I've chosen a tea that I hope will go with my outfit at least a bit. The tea is from my autumn tea haul ordered from Harney & Sons, and the specific blend is hot apple spice. It is a black tea with dried apple and some orange peel, as well as warm spices like cloves and cinnamon. It's naturally fairly sweet, so if you plan to add more sweetener to it, you might need a touch less than usual. If you add only a touch of sugar usually, try this one with nothing added. Or perhaps if you really want to add something to your warm cup of hot apple spice, try adding some brandy instead. None for me today, sadly. I'm drinking my tea from a small handmade pottery cup I've loved for 30 years. Immediately after I graduated from college, one of my roommates got married to one of my close friends from my academic department. One of my roommate's high school friends, with whom many of us had become friendly during our college years, was a fantastic potter, and she made cups like this for all the people in Laura's wedding. If I remember correctly, she made a whole dinner set for Laura and Dan, too. It's a joy to drink out of this mug, partly because of its delicate nature, given that it's hand-thrown pottery, and partly because of all the college memories that come flooding back whenever I drink from it. And today seems like a perfect day to be using a cup that brings back memories from those days long ago. This week, as you might have guessed, given the costume, I'll be reading Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, a book I may have read more times than any other book during my 5 decades of reading. Over the years, new ideas always seemed to come to the fore. When I was a new teenager, I was obsessed with Jane's insistence that even if she were plain, even if she were poor and alone, she was not subordinate to anyone. She believed deeply that she deserved a life of deep fulfillment, just as much as everyone, even wealthy men who controlled everyone around them, even religious men who acted as if God had given them special rights over her. As the years went by, I saw other themes in the book. For example, when I first started graduate school in history, when post-colonial theory was blossoming, the story of Bertha became significantly more interesting and disturbing to me. As a girl, I almost brushed over the story, to be honest. It seemed too dramatic or over the top to seem authentic, and I was drawn instead to the quieter and more intimate yet feminist moments in the book that felt intensely real and personal. By the time I was in grad school, I was far more interested in how Bronte was writing the plot, and what cultural forces and perhaps personal perspectives led her as a writer to create the character of Bertha as she does, with all the hard to take horrific assumptions about outsiders, especially outsiders who were black or brown or even tan or dark-haired. The description of the fortune teller also plays on ethnic stereotypes, although perhaps one could do a reading of that scene with a more nuanced vision than that. With Bertha, a more nuanced reading of those scenes seems all but impossible. And then, a few years later, after I had lost half my hearing due to surgery for a non-cancerous brain tumor, I was stunned that I had not picked up on themes of disability that run throughout the novel of Jane Eyre. Clearly, Bertha is the most obvious case, but the language, metaphoric often, but sometimes literal, of disability is on so many pages. Much of this portrayal is problematic as well, if we consider it from today's understanding of disability. Honestly, using anyone's reality as a metaphor for something else feels pretty dangerous. Nevertheless, I love the fact that disability is an equalizing force for Jane Eyre. I won't go into the details of what I mean because it involves spoilers, but I'm talking about the situation set up in the last several scenes of the book. At some point, after I reread it, I might make a full discussion about Jane Eyre, but that will certainly be a separate video clearly labeled with spoiler warnings. There have been other issues that have stood out to me in new ways over repeated rereadings. For example, folklore and the supernatural, or religion and spirituality. But even when the new readings bring out very uncomfortable contemporary issues about how the book was constructed and what messages it carries, I still love this book very deeply, and I identify with its main character more than any other character I've ever met in a book. I'm eager to get started rereading it yet again, this time with the Booktube community around me. Kate Howe and Emily from Novelle Novels are leading a group discussion of Bronte's book using the hashtag Victober at Thornfield for participants' individual posts here on Booktube and on Instagram and on Twitter, I think. There will also be a Zoom book discussion, which I cannot wait to participate in next weekend. I'll link to their introduction videos, which have details about that Zoom call. So, very soon, I'll be picking up Jane Eyre. But until then, I'll be finishing Rebecca Mead's My Life in Middlemarch, a memoir, biography, lit-crit combo book, which I'm really enjoying so far. The author talks about how George Eliot's book has lived with her and through her since she was a teenager. She's grown up with it, the book absolutely shaping her life, while her own maturity also, of course, shapes what she sees now in Middlemarch. Rebecca Mead's book has the same kind of thoughtful, compassionate philosophy that I'm so taken with in the original Middlemarch. It's been kind of a stressful week for me, mostly because I'm preoccupied with the state of the world, a bit too much sometimes. Whether I'm reading the text or listening to an audiobook, my mind keeps wandering. So I've tried something a little different. I've been reading Mead's book while listening to the audio at the same time. I'm not quite sure how to interpret what's happened in the experience. A moment of background. I almost never speed up the sound on YouTube videos or audiobooks just because I am such a slow listener. Is there such a thing? Is it just a result of growing up in the South? But I'm a relatively fast reader. Well, not fast at all for Booktube, but fast for the people around me normally. If I listen at normal speed while also holding the book in front of me, I go absolutely bonkers. It's like trying to follow two completely separate conversations at once. I guess I just can't slow my reading down to my listening speed. I turned up the speed a quarter of a unit by quarter of a unit until I was at 2.5 and reading along very comfortably. At some point, when I couldn't sleep last night, I put in my earbuds and turned on the audiobook to listen to a few pages until I could stop being so anxious about the coming election. If you're trying to overcome moments of anxiety, do not turn your audiobook to 2.5. Honestly, I could not understand a single word. The audiobook sounded like white noise almost. The funny thing is that it did not seem fast at all when I had the text in front of me. Well, the lucky thing here is that while I did stay awake for a bit thinking about that experience, this distracting analysis allowed me to calm down some and actually get to sleep before too much longer. In addition to the rest of Mead's My Life in Middlemarch, I still have a bit of George Eliot's novel left. This is my first time reading it, and I'm hoping to be ready to talk about it more by next week sometime. What an amazing experience this has been for me. I've really loved this book, and I know I'll be coming back to it again and again for as long as I am rereading old favorites. Still, even if I think of it as a more perfect, quote, Hannah book than Jane Eyre is for me at this point, it will never have all that history behind it, all those memories of bookish love that have built up over decades of my life. There's so much pleasure in that experience of reliving previous rereadings. So how's your Victober going? Have you found any huge surprises, positive or negative, that you can share? And how much is rereading playing a part in your Victober celebration? I'm eager to hear. Thanks for joining me today here on Hannah's Books for this third Victober weekly wrap-up. See you soon.